Are you all here in this room? SMAK Santo Luis 1 Surabaya. Can I have your
Yes,
confirmation?
Our third speaker is not here yet.
Okay, can you hurry up because we're gonna start the grand final session?
Yes, he's about to join. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Okay. I already accept him. So SMAK Santo Luis Surabaya, are you all completed? Are you all complete in this room session? First, third, and second speaker?
Thank you so much for asking, Comedy. Now our team is already complete and we truly apologize for the inconvenience.
Okay, thank you. So for all participants, I would like to all of you to turn on your camera because in this case building, you should turn on your camera until the end of this session, grand final session. So if you can all just turn on your camera, I will proceed to the motion release session. Okay, thank you, Rain Fatanen, Shannon, Getza, I can see you. Emily, thank you. Alia, we're still gonna wait for the other speakers. Elena, I can see you. For SMAN 2 Jakarta, your second speaker. Oh, you all have complete. Okay. Okay, we can proceed to the motion release for grand final round debate competition Iron 2021. For the committee, can you please share screen the presentation? Oke, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Good afternoon all. Welcome to the grand final debate competition Iron 2021. The debate grand final Iron 2021 that is filled from SMAN 2 Jakarta and SMAK Santo Luis 1 Surabaya. Your motion for this chamber is this house will start school after the majority of students have been vaccinated. I repeat, for the grand final round that is filled from SMAN 2 Jakarta and SMAK Santo Luis Surabaya, your motion for this grand final session of debate competition Iron 2021 is this house will start school after the majority of students have been vaccinated. Okay, so I would like the committee to spin the school's name to find out which is the government team and which is the opposition team. And I would like to remind again to all participants that whatever names comes out first is the government team. So for the committee, you can spin the school's name. For the committee, I repeat, you can spin the school's name. Oh, for the government team, SMAN 2 Jakarta. I repeat, for the grand final session, with the motion, this house will start school after the majority student have been vaccinated. The government team is SMAN 2 Jakarta, and the opposition team is SMAK Santo Luis 1 Surabaya. I repeat, the grand final session of debate competition Iron 2021 with the motion this house will start school after the majority of students have been vaccinated. The government team is SMAN 2 Jakarta and the opposition team is SMAK Santo Luis 1 Surabaya. And now I would like to ask for the government team first, who is your first, second, third, and reply speaker? For the government team, you may speak.
For my first speaker is me, Gaitsa. For my second speaker is Alia, and my third speaker is Elena, and our reply is me, Gaitsa.
Okay, thank you for the confirmation from SMAN 2 Jakarta acting as government team. For the team opposition, SMAK Santoli 1 Surabaya, you may speak.
Okay, so for the, okay. Okay, sorry, Shannon.
You can proceed,
So,
Miller.
okay, so the first speaker is Emily Taslim, which is me. Second speaker is Shannon. Third speaker is Rain. And the reply speaker is Shannon Wagner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for our participant, either government and opposition team for the confirmation. We wish you the best of luck. Thank you and goodbye. I will proceed to the moderator to take this session. For the moderator, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you. I will start this competition. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Okay, good afternoon, honorable adjudicator and fellow participants. Welcome to the grand final round of Iron 2021 debate competition. Let me introduce myself. My name is Anna Fairuz, will be acting as your moderator, and Zia Azalea will be acting as the timekeeper. The adjudicator for this chamber is Ms. Zahwa Maula, Ms. Ferinda Khairunisa, and Mr. Faisal Akbar. The motion for this debate is this house will start school after the majority of students have been vaccinated. In this chamber, the government team is from SMAN 2 Jakarta, Gaitsa Safa as the first speaker, Alia Latifa as the second speaker, and Elena Yovita as the third speaker. The reply speech will be delivered by Gaitsa. The opposition team is from SMAK Santo Luis 1 Surabaya, Emily as the first speaker, Shannon as the second speaker, and Rain as the third speaker. The reply speech will be delivered by Shannon. Okay, before we start this debate session, all participants will have case building session for 20 minutes. And this will be the moment of silent session where participants cannot unmute themselves until the countdown is over. For the timekeeper, you may start the countdown. Okay, the time is over. Fellow participants, I would like to remind the time allocation for all speakers that first, second, and third speakers have 7 minutes of speaking and 20 seconds for the stoppage time. The reply speaker will only have 4 minutes of speaking and an additional 20 seconds for stoppage time. POI is done by unmuting microphones saying POI, and it is required to first be welcomed by the speaker who is presenting the arguments. POI is only allowed 2 times in each argument presentation session with a time allocation of about 20 seconds. The time for POI can be started after the first minute to the 6th minute. Only speakers who is presenting the argument is allowed to answer the interruption. Reply speaker is only for first and second speaker. And last, please count down from 3 to 1 before starting the arguments so that the timekeeper can start the time properly. Okay, to open the debate, I would like to call the first speaker of the government team. Gaitsa, time is yours.
Hi, Ka. I'm sorry I cannot open my camera during the case building time because my laptop will be overheat. So I will start my speech in 3. Oh yeah, first of all, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, so I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Israel is one of the country that do the online before the student get vaccinated, and their country ended up erasing the cases in Israel, and the outbreak are even worse than before. We don't want this to happen in our cyber house panels. I will prove to you why at the end of the day we should start school after the majority of students have been vaccinated. So moving on to my definitions, the majority means the large amount of people in the community that has been vaccinated in these emotions. And vaccinated in our side is a medicine that able to reduce the spread of corona to each individuals by creating the immune system in our body. So the student is the people who are studying in the schools, so and providing the and they learning for the educations. And so in this motion, we will prove to you why there is urgency to start school after the big amount of students have been vaccinated, has been immunized with these vaccines. So moving on to my stance. So what is our stance? Our stance is we support the school starts after the majority of students has been vaccinated. So what is our mechanism? So our mechanism is what we mean by majority student is 95% of students should be vaccinated to enter the school, and you have to show the vaccine report card. So you cannot just enter by saying I already get vaccine. You have to show your report card so the data will be accurate. And also we will also divide the system in 2 ways. The first is we will make sure that the school will open in the school that been through a several steps in selections. So they have the facility to provide the health protocols like washing hand plates, and the distance of the desk and chair should be about 1.5 meters each desk for the students. And make sure that all the actors that exist in the school, such as the teacher and also the cleaning service should be vaccinated, and then they have the agreement from their parents, such as their parents already agree with a paper with signature in it. And also our second ways is the school that has not been fully through the selections, they can go online first, and then we should proceed to make every student getting vaccinated for the next selection. So the government in the status quo, because the government in the status quo already provide and distribute the vaccines, like Pfizer are also entering our country, so we think that it's enough to give them the helps. So our goal is we want to protect the students, and we also want to protect their rights to study at school with safetyness. So moving on to my arguments, I will only bring one argument here about why there is urgency to start school after the majority students has been vaccinated. So moving on to my first layer, what is the characteristic of the students? So according to puslit.commandingbook.go.id, student has a unique characteristic. So what is the characteristic? Students are the actor that is sociable. They like to play around and interact with their friends. And you need to realize that this is risky risky because they will go to school without, if they go to school without vaccinated, they will easily get infected because they think that it is okay to do social interactions with their friends because they love to play with their friends, right? So it means that under the logic, when you do offline school without vaccinated, it will be danger for the student itself. And second of all, they have the tendency to study more and online and offline, knowing that then the online, knowing that according to UNICEF, 66% of students tend to not focus on during online school. And because of several factors, you need to realize that some of them having online school and they tend to be lazy to study, etc. And even in under our side of the house, studies lazy student will still exist, but at least it is still better because you get the monitoring from your teacher. And if they didn't do their assignment, they will get punished, and the teacher like will be angry like that. And other factors like they didn't focus is because, for example, for the siblings itself, as itself, and also the characteristic that we have an urgency. By this, the characteristic we have an urgency to start the school panels to maintain the safetyness and education itself. So moving on to my second layer, why student have to be vaccinated first before they allowed to go to school? Because as what I already explained before, in the status quo, the characteristic of government or the stakeholder that having the authority to start school is having an obligation to make sure that these students can go to school in safetyness, right? So on the PEPRAS number 14, year 2022, 2020. 2021 started, it's obligated to get vaccinated, right? So this proves to you that at the end of the day, you need to get vaccinated to prevent your body from getting infected by this virus itself. So under their side mechanism should be clear whether they want to do whether what they will do with the students, right? So, and moving on to my third layer, why our side able to fulfill the government obligations? Because according to PRT, when the government has the obligation to protect the citizen. And why in our side of the house we're able to protect the citizen right of educations and rights of safetyness? Because first we have the regulations to protect them. Because in this actually exclusive, because in their side of the house they will not able to do online school with the offline school. If they want to do offline school without vaccinated, it will be dangerous for the student itself, right? So even if they want to do even if they want to wait until the corona end, but our side is still better because in our side of the house we're able to protect the rights of the study to study in school, right? Because we already provide them with the regulation that they need to get vaccinated first. And if their cyber house wants to do offline without getting vaccinated, we think that it is very dangerous and you should not create a dangerous work, right? So what is our worst case scenario? So our worst case scenario is the outbreak that will still happen in our side of the house, or people in school already even if they already get vaccinated, they will still get the corona. But we believe that it will less likely to happen because even if it happened, the effect of corona wouldn't be that bad because according to the WHO, vaccine help people to cure the illness and the moment when you get corona. And so our side will still better because knowing that we already fulfilled the government obligation to protect the citizens' rights of educations and rights of safetyness. And why our side is better? Because we give you a exclusive benefit, because in their side of the house they have to choose like whether they want to wait until the outbreak end, with they will only implement online, or second they will do they will allow the students to go to school before they get vaccinated, right? So even if they have like two scenario, we think that both of the scenario is in good panels, because knowing that they cannot cater the problem and they will create another problem, and they also not able to fulfilling the government obligations, not like our side of the house. Like our side of the house already bring an exclusive benefit, we already bring the worst case scenario, and we already bring the concrete data. So we are so proud to propose. Thank you.
Okay, the first speaker of the government team spent 7 minutes and 11 seconds. Now to begin the case of the opposition, I call upon the first speaker of the opposition team, Emily. Time is yours.
Hello, is my voice audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, and I will start this speech in 3, 2, 1. Thank you, honorable adjudicators, distinguished committee, and respected House of Government. My name is Emily Taslim, serving as the leader of opposition from the House of Opposition, accompanied by Shannon Wagner as Deputy and Rain Varanan as whip. Upon the following motion, the House will start school after the majority of students have been vaccinated. Before we proceed, Your Honor, we would like to submit our pleading that first, inefficiency of herd immunity progress upon the status quo is inefficient. Vaccinations are inaccessible for students with special emphasis on rural areas and comorbid history. Third, offline learning are urgency to be implemented in order to catch up with material which is unacceptable in the online learning environment. First, Your Honor, please let the speaker define the function of vaccine. A vaccine will create an immunity of the virus, and some might also be able to stop transmission. They do so by stimulating an immune response to an antigen, a molecule found on the virus. In the case of COVID-19, the antigen is typically characterized by protein found on the surface of the virus, which is normally used to help invade human cells. The status quo of vaccination rate in Indonesia has slowed down again after having broken through 2 million doses per day in mid-July 2021. Currently, the realization of daily vaccination is only in the hundreds of thousands of doses per day. On 26 July, for example, the number of doses injected was less than 500,000 doses a day. Next, Your Honor, not everyone is able to get the vaccine. For example, people with comorbid. Comorbid is a medical term to indicate comorbidities other than the main disease being suffered. For students who are living with someone who has comorbid, then they are at the risk at infecting them, which is why we need to implement the hybrid. Whereas the students who get vaccinated can go to school physically, while the ones haven't can continue distant learning. Your Honor, with the amount of vaccine received, which is also known as herd immunity or population immunity, is the indirect protection from an infectious disease that occurs when a population becomes immune, either through vaccinations or through previous infection. WHO believes that achieving herd immunity through vaccination of approximately 95% of the population, the remaining 5% will be protected because measles will not spread among those who have been vaccinated. According to the Ministry of Health, the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine was administered to 73 million people, which means that only 35.45% of the target population of approximately 200,000 population have received the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine, which is very slow. Meanwhile, approximately 42 million people, or 20%, have received the second dose of COVID vaccine. Only 1 per 5 of the Indonesian population. Yet the herd immunity itself shall require at least 70% of the society to be vaccinated. This certainly outlines, Your Honor, that the longer vaccination does, the longer a student has to wait to come to an offline school. Second, previously, the DKI Jakarta Health Service stated that the children aged 12 to 17 in the capital city are expected to finish COVID-19 vaccine by August 2021 for the preparation of offline school. Your Honor, we would like to move on to our next pleading. The vaccinations are inaccessible for students in Indonesia. Center for Indonesia Policy Studies researchers Andrew Suryanta said that herd immunity is difficult to achieve if the speed of distribution and administration of vaccines in each region differs too much. He admitted acceleration of vaccination is still hit by two risks. First, supply disruptions that still depend on the international community so that they can only meet the needs in Indonesia in 2021. Second, another risk is the distribution channel, which so far has not been evenly distributed between import routes and cold chain capacity in each region. So the speed of vaccination is different between regions. In Indonesia, for instance, Your Honor, still has yet a responsive and systematic vaccine distribution. In Jakarta, the first dose of vaccination has reached approximately 115%, and for the second dose, it was 68.87%. Meanwhile, Lampung was the city with the slowest distribution, with penetration of the first dose of vaccination at only 12.33%, and the second dose of vaccination reaching 7.8%. Third, offline learning are urgency to be implemented in order to catch up with material, which is unacceptable in the online learning environment, which in this case, that this urgency that will result by hybrid learning as the solution. Thank you very much.
Okay, the first speaker of the opposition team spent 5 minutes and 8 seconds. I call upon the second speaker of the government team, Alia. Time is yours.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes.
Wait for a second, please. Okay, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, we believe that they keep picking data without having analysis upon those data, whether it's aligned with their likelihood. We think the data is useless the moment you tell you that it's not suitable with our logic by the end of the day. We're so proud to propose. Thank you. So now, onto my rebuttals. The only arguments that they brings is about how they want to implement it, to instantly implement it offline school without the needs to actually vaccinate all students, which we believe is really reckless by at the very first place, because there are so many data that shows there is the um strict rules that government created on making schools doing offline schools without having this mechanism that we implemented on our proposals, shows on how a lot of people get affected after they attended schools because those really less strict rules, right? We believe that strict rules on our side of the house will actually stand better on our proposals, and our side of the house, even though it might take longer time, it is still better because by the end of the day we can create better and progressive societies by saving these kids from COVID-19 and also making school societies working well, right? So now they mentioned about how vaccines cannot reach people in rural area and how it is slowing down, which is justifiable reasons to just go schools to just start school now. But we believe that it is untrue. Government have subsidized these vaccines well and are trying to reach the rural area better, right? We believe that the a statistic that they brought by the end of the day is only statistics that happened on the past, but not trying to visualize what would happen in the future, right? We believe that at this very point right now, government is trying really hard to actually reach a bigger number of peoples, right? But even if it's true, we believe the slow progress is still count as progress by the end of the day, right? They bring data speaks about herd immunity, which shows on how their side actually supports our side because herd immunities only happen when majority of people are vaccinated, right? We believe that even though having to reach the number of majorities on our side of the house is slow, we believe that it's okay because we cater the vulnerable actor, which is the students, to not get infected by the COVID virus because the students have the characteristic of liking interactions, right? We believe that the moment schools and government being reckless and not trying to cater these vulnerable actors to get protected by vaccinations that we're trying to do in our proposals, then by the end of the day, their side of the house fail to fulfill their obligations to create a safety societies for the students, which is a really bad thing, right? They also mentioned about how in countries like Kampong is very slow, but please notice
POI.
no thank you. Please notice that Lampung actually, even though their side is so, but it is status quo is actually growing, right? Which is we believe that their data and percentage that they brings by the end of the day
POI.
is if useless if it's compared to the actual status quo that exists right now. They also mentioned about herd immunity, which I already responded all. But panels, we also do not understand what are they trying to say. Their mechanisms is clear in whether they want to do offline school or online school. Like, okay, from the data they throw to us, they are consistent that they want to do offline school, but we believe that it is unaligned to their burden of proof by the end of the day because by the end of the day we believe that they will fail to elaborate or to explain to us on how the urgency is actually fulfillable on their side of the house because we believe that these kids are vulnerable and cannot and their proposals will not work for these vulnerable actors. So now jumping to my arguments, I'm going to compare this to online school and why we believe that offline schools with majority students getting vaccinated is way much more better, bringing about the characteristic of students itself. So firstly, why the problems existed on our side of the house? School right now didn't work effectively because it limits so many students on doing so many things, right? We believe the urgency of implementing this proposal is really high because the students right now hardly able to concentrate on online school and there's barely any student supervisions for school activities. Moreover, what makes offline school is pretty emergency is the availability students for device and stuff like that. But we believe after all those problems we mentioned, the fact that these students have the characteristics are of having
POI.
liking to have interactions with other peoples makes it even more urgent for us to actually implement the proposals of vaccinating majority of the peoples, right? Why our proposal help? We can see that it might take long, but we believe that their proposal doesn't help at all, as by the end of the day there's at the house only glorifying offline school, which making worse by the end of the day, because they're creating a, not instead of a progressive society, they're creating a backlash where people by the end of the day, without the strict rules that we're proposing on our mechanisms, they will only get affected by the end of the day, because they fail to create a safety societies with their proposal, with the proposal that they brought. Yes, even though we both of the side might concede that online schools might not be effective, but we believe that the take of the longer time is actually needed, because what we're trying to create is here on our side of the house is safety societies, right? So now I'm going to explain why we have benefits by implementing offline schools only. So about this firstly about the students' activities and the teacher supervisions being limited in offline schools. We believe that the set cannot cater this with their proposals. As how? But we believe that by the end of the day, their school have more likelihood to actually do all online school by the end of the day, because the moment that one students get infected because they didn't create a soft safety societies, then they will go back to online school, right? Which is why we believe by the end of the day, their side have no long-term benefits, and they will go back on online school, which I will compare their side of the house with online schools, because their side gave no likelihood on having a long-term safe offline school societies, right? In online class, there is a lack in input from student and how they are limited on social life, which is why we believe that it's really bad. The students are not able to concentrate and reduce the internal motivations on students, right? On students itself, right? This is bad because the moment students lost their motivations, they tend to cheat and take shortcut easy way on schools, right? This is worsened by the fact that a student hardly able to supervise the students one by one. Yes, parents exist, but student can come. But student can just turn off the cameras because we're in another situations, right? We believe that their proposal or their status quo, their after status quo, which is online, is not going to be enough panels. There are still many ways students can cheat, and parents most of the times need to work to fulfill their needs, which is important. This problem is crucial, and their side cannot cater this, unlike our side of the house. Unlike our side of the house, because on our side of the house, we didn't just implement it. We didn't just implement it offline. We didn't just abandon offline school, but also make this offline school a long term time, because our proposals give you a mechanisms on that we're creating a safe societies first, right? Which is why we believe that their side of the house give no tangible benefits, unlike our side of the house. So now on to availabilities. Notice that in Indonesia, internet connections on rural area are hard to reach, right? Yes, students get subsidized by government, but we believe by the end of the day, government needs to cater more, which is why we believe that in the short term we can still cater this, but in the long term it's not going to be all right, right? We believe that moreover, panels, not all students live in a sustainable house. Some of them didn't have laptop or phone in their house and need to share with their siblings, or even some students have some issues with their parents, right? These conditions limit students to make participation in online school. This is morally unjustified and obviously ineffective for students because their learning environments didn't support them, right? We believe that it is bad and their side of the house
Okay,
cannot
sorry,
this.
your time is over.
Wait, let me do the closing first. So by that, we already proved on how there's no likelihood for them to do offline school. We're so proud to propose. Thank you.
Okay. The second speaker of the government team spans 7 minutes and 24 seconds. Now I call upon the second speaker of the opposition team, Shannon. Time is yours.
Okay, is the speaker audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. The speaker will start its speech in 3, 2, 1. The incredible agitators, distinguished committee, and respected House of Opposition. This is Shannon Wagner serving as the Deputy of the Opposition. And before we proceed, we would like to submit our pleadings, Your Honor, that first, herd immunity inefficiency continues to wreak havoc the existing quo. Second, vaccination is difficult to get for people with focus on the rural regions and comorbid histories. Well, third, offline learning must be adopted as soon as possible in order to catch up its content that is not suitable in an online learning environment. Your Honor, before the speaker begins to repeat the statement made by the House of Government, this speaker would like to express its deepest gratitude for it, especially for the second speaker itself. As the second speaker has elaborated, also show that they are supporting our stance. First, Your Honor, if we may quote, the speaker mentioned that participation in online school is not supportive in health, which actually conclude why we have to also done with the offline situation. Second, the speaker also mentioned that the rural areas, they are having they're unable to provide the funds essential in terms of the technological advancement in the long term. Well, Your Honor, if you take a look upon the following motion that we have with the slow response, also the distribution of vaccination, we can see that this is a long-term situation, which it means the House of Government is completely supporting us, Your Honor, that we shall also have the school not only for the vaccination itself, but we shall also start to implement both the hybrid, also the offline learning itself. Third, Your Honor, the speaker also mentioned previously that student has characteristics with people, which means that it does not help it doesn't fully have, but it will backlash. However, Your Honor, seems like the House of Government did not manage to to meet the requirements, also the status quo that has been previously mentioned by the first speaker of the opposition team. Your Honor, we'd like to also mention that with the slow progress of the herd immunity, which there are minimum 70% that now they're even less than 1.5. The speaker just strongly believe that this is an urgency for us, regardless of our situation. Yes, we are experiencing health crisis. Yet the current side that we have to look is the education crisis itself. Your Honor, we would like to also mention that it seems like House of Government has neglected to cover a part of society, essentially when they have been proudly mentioning that they are striving for the rights of the education, also safety. But it seems like, Your Honor, as has been explained with the first speaker, a House of Patient is indeed an urgency for us to proceed with offline learning. Thank you for the first speaker. But the question is, does that mean that House of Government decided not to vaccinate the student with comorbid history? And intently, the statement is contradicting the comment mentioned by House Government itself, Your Honor, to vaccinate and provide the equality of learning and safety for the students, Your Honor. It seems like they are also supporting our stances as well. Not only that, Your Honor, the House of Government has also yet to further elaborate and bring upon the table concerning the vaccine areas, taxes in rural areas, quoted from the Center for Surveillance, Epidemiology, and Laboratory Service, in which the speaker is highly expecting the House of Government to take a look also at the data-driven speech. Vaccine progress is 50 percentage points lower in rural areas compared to the urban areas. Well, Your Honor, quoting for the World Bank County Director for Indonesia, Indonesia has made progress in education indeed, including the significant improvement. However, it is crucial that the House of Government expenditures are targeted at improving student learning outcomes and reducing learning inequality. Once again, learning inequality, Your Honor, in which we are expecting the House of Government to also consider not only the current vaccination distribution assets, and also we are expecting them to also take a look upon the comorbid history, also to further take into account upon the rural areas itself. As we all know that 43.36% of the areas in Indonesia are rural, as stated in the status. Your Honor, the speaker would like to also mention its deepest regret towards the inability of the House of Government to bring a data-driven speech and completely did not acknowledge the data and status quo settled by the House of Opposition. Also, the comprehensive understanding toward the urgency of herd immunity slow progress. Well, although we appreciate the pleading, Your Honor, the speaker will continue with its plea that firstly, students need to have all of learning as their main urgency. First, Your Honor, in conjunction with the interactionist perspective theory developed by George Herbert Mead in 1934, which states that membership in a social group produces the same behavior, which what we call as culture. The part of the theory is also associated with symbolic interactionism in the study of social interaction, where a person's behavior is influenced by symbols and their behaviors of others. This theory is also similar to the concept of social exchange, Your Honor, with the light of social interaction in the online situation, as has been perfectly outlined with the speaker on the House of Government itself. Surely it will create an impact to a government itself not to work aligned with SDG 4 education. It seems like it means that the government has certainly violated the commitment to provide to work aligned with SDGs, also provide the equality for students to learning as well, as there are several students who are unable to go to school because they are not being vaccinated, and which turns out has fully supported by the Deputy Prime Minister. Please let the speaker to quote her amazing statement that during online school students are unable to implement a lot of things, which add the urgency, the status quo of our motion right now, Your Honor, that we shall also put upon the following offline schools, even though we are not doing vaccination. And also the speaker was mentioning the Prime Minister's statement that after they have been vaccinated, health protocol in the offline school are being necessary. Well, yes, Your Honor, having vaccination is still using the health protocol, and that is also supporting our pleas, which also we are prepared to use the hybrid learning, also containment of the offline learning itself, in order not to create a new cluster in the campus environment. Quoted from the Ministry of Education, Your Honor, the implementation to face-to-face learning activities is still carried out using health protocols. So even though the students are still conducting face-to-face activities, educational institutions still can guarantee the health security, as has been also mentioned by the House of Government itself, Your Honor. Next, the speaker will bring upon the theory of hierarchy of needs by Abraham Maslow that mentioned the 5 principles of human necessities: basic needs, safety, love, esteem, and self-actualization. Your Honor, to this principle, also without neglecting the status quo in the education improvement, as Indonesia is also experiencing setbacks during its transition adaptation towards the online learning, we can see the most urgent principle to be fulfilled is the basic need in the education sector. It means that students shall have a proper education in which can be reached by offline as their main priority. Once again, quoting from the House of Government, which also seconding our statement that there are several curriculums, several subjects that students cannot have and learn during the online family condition learning. That being mentioned, government, our team does strongly believe that the motion shall also not be failed, and we shall also proceed with their hybrid learning as online learning are definitely necessary, also to meet their availability to learn further and also to meet the requirement of the achievement of SDGs 4, which will be education. Thank you, honorable adjudicators, distinguished committee, and respected House of Parliament.
Okay, the second speaker of the opposition team spans 6 minutes and 18 seconds. Now I call upon the third speaker of the government team, Elena. Time is yours.
I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay, wait. We'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, our honorable judges, our lovely committee, and our great opponents. If we can respond to all of their data with logic, we should win on this debate. All of their data will be useless the moment when we respond it with analysis. Proud to propose. Before moving to my class, 2 points why they failed on this debate. Their second speaker told you about our mechanism is not clear, but I think their side closing their ears. We told you that we will have selection, that it become a requirement for you to get vaccinated before you enter school, right? What is the difference? On their side, it's so risky because they let the students, majority of students go without vaccinated. We're questioning to them under their side of the house how they will ensure about the safetyness itself. This is the difference between their side with our side. So please, I don't want to receive any kind of claims that our mechanism is still not clear. I already clearing the mechanism, right? The difference is that under our side of the house, the majority of students have to go vaccinated, but on their side of the house, they just go to school without the vaccinated itself. But secondly, about habit, no, we take them as careless because they neglect real life examples how less strict rules on their side only make students get affected in the end of the day. You need to realize that students is vulnerable actors on these debate panels. You should guarantee the safetyness for the students itself, right? Moving to my class are points that are still not clear, and I will respond it and compare it with our side of the house. On the first class, about justification level. Is it justified to make the majority of students to get vaccinated or no? But on the second class, for the impact, right? Moving on the first class, which side are able to guarantee the safetyness? I found 2 points from their side of the house. Firstly, they told you that vaccination goes slowed down again, vaccination not yet distributed well. 3 responses. Firstly, untrue. You need to realize that government already tried their best to distribute the vaccine. What is the real example? Your school provide you vaccine, right? This is the real example that distribution is already enough. But secondly, even if it's true, so what? What is your solution to make sure the safetyness for the students itself? Your side need to explain how you guarantee the safetyness for the students itself. Panels, you need to realize what's going to happen on the side of the house is that these students that are not vaccinated, which is so risky, and it's easy for you to get infected by the coronavirus, right? When there is one student announced that infected by COVID, school getting panic, the school activities could go even worse. Parents, all people blaming you as government because you failed to protect these vulnerable actors, right? But thirdly, they're doing a risky action which is not justified. Where is their urgency? We're questioning to them, right? We successfully proved to you our contribution on this debate. We show students characteristic. You also need to realize that government also tried their best as help from other countries, like for example, America. Even Biden want to give developing countries like Indonesia free vaccine, right? What makes this not enough? There is no explanation coming from their side of the house because all of their bring on this point is all about data, but there is no analysis behind the data. There is no conclusion behind the data, how they will ensure the safetyness for the students and stuff, right? But on the second point, their first speaker told you about herd immunity and data about herd immunity, etc. 3 responses. I don't think that all of this data should respond even more. They don't give you solution. All of they doing is they told you about how bad vaccine is, but they fail to ensure the safetyness for the students itself. You need to ensure the safetyness for the students itself before you make sure the proper of education, right? Because on their side of the house, if they're doing this risky action, in the end of the day, proper of education will not achieve on their side of the house. Secondly, you need to realize that herd immunity can be achieved when you got vaccinated, right? Under your side of the house, herd immunity will not achieve because your data, because they are not vaccinated, right? But thirdly, they told you herd immunity will not work. Okay, if it does not work, what's gonna happen on your side of the house? Their side are evil, let these students go to school with a big risk, and what's gonna happen if they infected? They are vulnerable actors, panels. You need to note that, right? But what is the comparison? We told you there is two reasons why government should open school after majority of students vaccinated. A, about urgency with 2 points. You need to make sure the safetyness for the students is up, right? But secondly, general education people lack of motivation in online school. Their side never responds to it and only saying that on their side they will do offline school, hybrid mechanism, etc. But never responds with this. It means our argument still exist on this debate, right? They don't understand about, you need to realize that students on the online school itself don't understand about lessons because their teacher just left them and giving them assignment. This is struggle that all of students have been through, right? But there is no kind of explanation or there's that lack of step-by-step analysis. B, you as a government having an obligation to make sure the safetyness because you are responsible. If students being infected because they are not yet vaccinated, their parents will mad at you. They think that you failed to fulfill your obligation as government, and this is bad when government fail to protect or guarantee the safetyness for the students itself. What it means you will get a bad name as the government, and it's not sweet the interest of you to get trust from society, right? You need to realize the government having interest to get a good name in front of society so that they are able to be chosen again in the next election. As my first speaker already told you that it's important, right, for you to fulfill your obligation as government, right? But second class, the impacts, they told you that there will be a lot of COVID, but we think it's likely to happen because you need to realize we're giving you comparison that we told you that vaccine is one of the requirement of the schools itself, right? So we think that on our side of the house, we already guarantee the safetyness for the student itself. But secondly, they told you about the impacts about data. They are able to get proper education. One-liner panels, data that they give to you from Prime Minister and etc. is not enough to give you proper explanation. How they gonna ensure the proper education the moment when these students are not yet vaccinated, they are able to be infected by the COVID virus itself, right? You need to realize the moment when they fail to ensure the safetyness for the students itself, it means they failed to get proper education, right? We told you under their side, they having a likelihood to go online again. The system could be messed up because you need to realize and admit the nature of kid is too risky if they go to school without being vaccinated, panels. And with online school, there is a crucial problem, which is there are less monitoring from the teacher itself. On time is not enough, right? Communication that happen on online or offline is totally different. When you go online, it's hard for you to get response from chats from teachers, right? And you should not rely on this bad system, right? What is the conclusion under the house? Their side failed to give you explanation in the end of the day how their side will ensure the safetyness for the students itself if they want to go to offline school, right? But even if they want to go a hybrid mechanism, we think they are half stance, right? But secondly, about their mechanism, about their benefit, will never achieve on the side of the house because you need to realize when you are not able to ensure the safetyness, you will not able to get proper education. That's why we are so proud to.
Okay. The third speaker of the government team spent 7 minutes and 14 seconds. Now I call upon the third speaker of the opposition team, Rain. Time is yours.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
The speaker will be started in 1, 2, 3. Thank you, moderators. Fact doesn't pretend share a purpose. Facts are more powerful than words. Honorable educators, distinguished committees, to begin with, this is Rain Ferdinand serving as opposition whip from the House of the Opposition. Your Honor, before I jump into my argument, also let us review the argument of the government team from a legal standpoint. We know that Indonesia is a country of law. This is clearly stated in the constitution of our country. By allowing this motion, we will indirectly violate human rights in education aspect, which is clearly stated in Indonesian constitution law, Article 28C, first paragraph, that stated that everyone has the right to develop themselves through the fulfillment of their basic needs to receive education and to benefit from science, technology, art, culture, and any other aspect. Also stated in paragraph 2 that everyone without any exception and requirement has the right to advance himself in fighting for his rights collectively to build his community, nation, and country. And also, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 6, has also stated clearly that every human being has the inherent right to fulfill their psychological needs, one of which is education for every student without any exception. We believe that with Indonesia's status as a state of law, we must follow what the law says, and by agreeing to this motion, we have violated the nature of Indonesia as a state of law. And of course, this is not what we want in the development of this nation. As we can see, Your Honor, the position of the government team here is not legally supported either by national or international law. Your Honor, it is hard to believe that nowadays education is one of the sectors that have been most affected by this pandemic, especially for children around the world. While nations are at first focuses in their COVID-19 disease rates, overall, there are presently more than 1.2 billion kids in 186 nations influenced by school closures because of the pandemic. There are some impacts of school closures, especially on education outcomes. The first thing is about online learning. Online learning for 5 months could result in a loss of learning for 0.6 years of schooling. Through this foundation, we can see how unfair for students who haven't been vaccinated and they haven't able to meet the vaccination requirement, and how the bad impact that they will be getting if they cannot go to school. And in addition, the choice to be vaccinated or not is a collective right that is owned by every citizen. And by agreeing to this motion, the government team has indirectly also violated the human rights constitution, which regulates the freedom to choose or not. And we can see in this position, the government team hasn't able to provide any solution to injustice that they will be experienced from the students who haven't been vaccinated, Your Honor. And also, Your Honor, the government team only focused on concerns that had never been happened until now, that the government team previously discussed the risk of exposure to the COVID-19 that other students could get when they were students who hadn't vaccinated taking offline learning. But in what I would like to state that in this position, the government hasn't considering the bigger bad impact that will be felt by the students who hasn't been meet the requirements to receive the vaccinations. And Your Honor, we also want to emphasize that from the philosophical aspect, but by agreeing to this motion, we will also violate the fifth precept of Pancasila, which reads that social justice for all Indonesian people. By only allowing the majority of students who have been vaccinated to enter the school, students who have health problems such as the comorbids mentioned by my first speaker before will lose their right to get an effective education through the face-to-face learning. Your Honor, if you're still in the states of developing country, especially we are a developing country, Indonesia, then of course, this motion is not it's not something that we can take easily, because can we imagine how our young generation will face the era of globalization with very tight competition if they lost the right to get the maximum education only because they cannot fulfill the requirement which vaccinated has mentioned before. And according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there are 5 basic human needs that people are motivated to achieve, which are psychological needs, safety needs, social needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization. Your Honor, needs lower down in the hierarchy must be satisfied before individuals can attain to needs higher. Prohibition of opening schools for students who haven't been vaccinated will surely violate the most basic needs of human, which is psychological needs and education aspect. As my first speaker has mentioned before, not everyone is able to get the vaccine, for example, for people with the comorbid. Comorbid is a medical term to indicate comorbidities others than the main disease being suffered to get the vaccination. For students who are living with someone who has a comorbid, then they are at risk at affecting them, which is why we need to implement hybrid learning, not fully offline learning. I mean online learning. And Your Honor, with the amount of vaccine received, herd immunity, also known as populated immunity, is indirectly protection from an infection disease that occurs when a population becomes immune, either through vaccination or through previous infection. World Health Organization believes that achieving herd immunity through vaccination of approximately 95% of the population, then the remaining 5% will be protected because measures will not separate among these who have been vaccinated. And furthermore, this our argument has also supported by the theory of comparative advantage by David Ricardo, which state that a nation can increase its standards of living and income if the country can increase its standards of living and income if it specializes in the production of goods or services which have calculated productivity and efficiency, especially in the crisis condition, including the education. Without an exception, especially in vaccination requirement. And Your Honor, lastly, I will referring to the Ministry of Education data as of September of 2021, as many as 76 million Indonesians have received their first vaccinations, or around 1 million, 1 million and 11,000. 12,000 more citizens has also get their vaccination. Meanwhile, 43 million people who have received their second vaccinations, are around 500 people more than previous day. Meanwhile, for Indonesia's capital city or Jakarta, as of September of 2021, as many as 10 million people have received their first vaccination. Without further doing, we will start our school as soon as possible without having to wait after the majority of students we have been vaccinated. That's all from me. Thank you so much.
Okay, the third speaker of the opposition team spent 7 minutes and 6 seconds. Now I call upon the reply speaker of the opposition team, Shannon. Time is yours.
Okay, is the speaker audible?
Yes.
Thank you so much. The speaker will start in speech in 3, 2, 1. Thank honorable adjudicators, distinguished committee, and respected House of Government. This is Shannon Wagner serving as a reply speaker upon the following motion, who is deeply regretful for the non-substantive pleading brought by the esteemed House of Government, which indirectly have been fully admitted by the House of Government during its statement, data are useless, Your Honor. The speaker would like to state that once again, the House of Government has failed to prove its claim that their mechanism of online learning are effective. Although the speaker deeply regrets the logical fallacies on their pleadings with personal point of views, the speaker would like to point out that first, Your Honor, please allow the speaker to quote the utterly perfect statement made by the whip of government. We have to admit that children are facing a risky nature. Your Honor, we can clearly see that it is contradicting the Prime Minister itself that the statement proudly declared that they are striving their best to provide their learning education access. It seems like the House of Government is sacrificing the security of these students itself, essentially containing the education development, will actually as also the motion that we are having today. Your Honor, the House deserves to fail the following motion as first, the House of Opposition did manage to point out 2 points, the main pleadings from the House of Government, Your Honor, which turned out it is such a shame for them not to acknowledge both the data and status quo of the urgency in their online school. And please let the speaker to quote essentially for the House of Government itself, who they mentioned that 2 reasons why government shall put the online school after the vaccination has been done is first is the safetiness, also lack of motivation. Well, they did not manage to also put into consideration to the government itself. Next, bringing upon the rural areas, Your Honor, the House of Government has mentioned previously the government has tried its best on distributing the vaccinations, essentially in rural areas. Yet, Your Honor, we can see that indirectly the government mentioned their unavailability to distribute the equal vaccine, causing and impacting the online school scenario will be longer, which actually seconding our stances, also supporting and also strengthening our stance, Your Honor, to come to a conclusion that actually the House of Government is also seconding our stance instead of trying to having their arguments strengthened as well. Next, Your Honor, apart from the exact unavailability of the House of Government to respond to which the students' common history, Your Honor, we shall also outline that there are several inequalities as been mentioned previously, even since the first speaker of the House of Opposition itself. We will summarize the pleadings of the Deputy Leader of Opposition, which comprehensively stated the mechanism of hybrid learning with the application of health protocols, Your Honor. And well, the House Government again and again has absolutely failed to bring upon the parameter and solution cells by the House of Opposition itself. It means, Your Honor, that actually the House of Opposition has been trying also putting its solutions comprehensively upon the hybrid learning, Your Honor. The hybrid learning itself, which also put on the health protocols so that the clear mechanism would be also safe for these students as well, even though they have not been vaccinated. Because, Your Honor, we all know the urgency, the status quo that we have, we should also further consider the offline learning. Why, Your Honor? Because as been mentioned previously by the leader of the opposition itself, offline learning should help the students on improving their education quality, as been also seconded by the House of Government as well. In conclusion, Your Honor, the speaker does strongly believe also supporting upon this motion to fail, and we shall also consider the hybrid learning or offline learning as one of the alternative for students, as been comprehensively previously mentioned by this government. And this speaker would like to also further mention that this House of Opposition has tried also to explain further mechanism using also a substantive speech, also data-driven pleadings as well. Thank you, honorable adjudicators, distinguished committee, and respected House of Government. Thank you.
Okay, the reply speaker of the opposition team spent 3 minutes and 21 seconds. Now, I call upon the reply speaker of the government team, Gaitsa. Time is yours.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, please notice that their side are gradual. We don't see any goals. We don't see clear mechanism. We don't see stands coming from their side of a house. I think you should weighing this debate based on analysis, not and logic, not data panels, because their side failed to fail because they didn't contribute to give any kind of analysis behind their data. Data is not enough to make their side win panels without any analysis why there is likelihood, right? So they're authoring data without actually selecting it first. Their data isn't up-to-date panels. It cannot be used in this debate. It is irrelevant. And also, panels, please notice that they never rebut our first speaker's statement, and they fail to understand that our side isn't supporting them. We'll link back to the problem that they will face if their side of the house implement their proposal, and how we able to cater this problem, and if their proposal being implemented, they will not able to cater this kind of problem. And please notice that they never to listen to our mechanism, and they always close their ear and claiming that without actually hearing our link back that their side will actually worsen the condition. We don't support them. We actually link back that their side is actually will worsen the conditions, right? Like what my second speaker already bring to you. And also, panels, please notice that their third speaker also bring a new argument, which is confusing, knowing that you shouldn't bring arguments in the third speaker, right? So what our side brings? So our side mentioned about the urgency of the vaccinated itself, right? With the characteristic of the students liking the social interactions. We believe that their side of the house failed to answer the burden of the proof, which is the safeness of the students itself. They are a vulnerable actor, right? So their side mechanism is very weird and careless. Our side proves to you that how vaccinated is very urgent to build a herd immunity to create a safety society, right? So their side say that they by bringing data about vaccinated and slow and stuff like that will actually go down, but will actually do kind of stuff which is very irrelevant. And also, we already respond to you, but this is justified because the moment when you wouldn't vaccinate people, herd immunity will not exist at the very first place. You will get easily impacted. Notice on the vulnerable actor having the characteristic of liking interaction, and that is worsening the pandemic situation, and they fail to bring any point of urgency, which is why their side cannot win. So our second speaker already elaborate on how much of not strategic their argument are, and they have no likelihood to go back to and they have a likelihood on actually going back to school at the end of the day if they don't implement this kind of if they don't implement the vaccinated, right? So we show on a bigger likelihood why on their side of the house they're actually very reckless with their mechanism, and also their side of the house just makes school will go online at the end of the day, right? So their side will actually not being able to fulfill, and also at the end of the day they will not fulfill the interest of the government itself, of the school itself, to make a good school for the student itself, because at the end of the day they will go back to online, because notice on their side will not create herd immunity, which is something that is exclusive in our side of the house, which is we will create herd immunity, right? So also their reply speaker told you that our side failed to ensure the security of the student, but we are so confused why on their side of the house you able to fulfill the security of the student when the student being infected go to school without vaccine panels. All of their data already fall the moment when you told that being vaccinated is an obligation stated in the prepress number 14 year 2021, right? So notice that their side of the house is very messy, no clear context, no clear mechanism, no clear goal on their side of the house. And please notice that in the data they always bring is never being elaborate. They only throwing data, and they never show to us how the proposal will actually work. So why are you able to say this? Because it is because they said that they say that there is herd immunity. Then what is the likelihood on their side of the house? The throwback vaccine aren't enough to reach the rural area. Then how their side of the house able to create immune system like what they stated in their argument, right? So their arguments is actually very wrong. And also the comorbid isn't over 10% panel, so we are able to cater this problem, cater the comorbid person, and they still able to go to school at the end of the day in our side of the house. So we are proud to oppose. Thank you.
Okay, the reply speaker of the government team spanned 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Now, thank you all participants. Now, I would like to invite the adjudicators, Ms. Ferinda Khairunisa, Mr. Faisal Akbar, and Ms. Zahwa Maula for the verbal adjudication. And first is Ms. Ferinda. Your time is 15 minutes.
Very well.
And it starts
Thank you
from
very
now.
much. All right. That was a very heated debate, I would say. I should state it is on the behalf of our adjudicator team. So the motion here is this house would start school after the majority of students have been vaccinated. With the government team, SMAN 2 Jakarta, and the opposition team is at St. Louis, right? Okay, I would give some general education first, and we'll go to the overall of each teams as we have a limited time here. So for the overall, for the all of the teams, I would say that all of you have done a really great job on delivering your speech and ensuring all of the audience about your own statements, about your own team's points of view. It was really delivered well, but there are some points that I would like to state it for you guys to keep it in mind, which are make sure that when you have a lot of data in hand, make sure that you try to analyze it even more and go through about it and try to connect about the data and your arguments. Try to explore more about the data and deliver it to the audience until they understand about what you're trying to point out in your arguments about that data. Aside from that, I would remind you to focus on the consistency of your team's argument. Like from the first speaker to the second to the third, make sure that there are no inconsistency on each speakers. Just make sure that all of you have an argument that is supporting one another. Not like there are some of the arguments that I heard that perhaps it's just not clear enough so that it seems like it lacks to your team's arguments. And then the third one is about the first speaker. I would like to remind both of the teams' first speaker that all of you actually already done a really, really good job about delivering the backgrounds, the definitions. But one thing for sure, don't forget to explore more about the real definition of each of the words that is stated on this motion. And aside from that, try to add about the country comparison about this motion. Like, for example, are there any country that already implemented this motion? If there is, try to bring it up on the first speaker. That's going to be a lot more beneficial for your team if you bring that up. And I will go on to each of the teams' education. So for the teams of the government teams, SMAN 2 Jakarta, overall, I really like how you guys bring up about the rebuttals about the other teams' argumentations. You really try to warm it up in a very ensuring manner so that the audience really pay attention to how you deliver it, and you got straight to the point about what is wrong with their statements, about their arguments. And it's really great, but there are some points that I want to remind all of the government team, which is try to explain more into details and support your argument with a comprehensive data. One of the speakers explained about mentioning the cheating will occur due to online learning, but that's it. I think that you guys can try to explore more about that. Like try to provide any research or any cases that actually happening right now about these cheating issues or the others arguments as well. And then as for the opposition team, you really delivered your arguments again, really comprehensive. It's good because some of the speakers even bring up about convention, constitution, and also bring up about theories, which is really great. But there are some points that I would like to remind you, which is try to enrich your team's points of arguments and avoid ordering, keep on circling about a certain points of arguments. Like for example, it's like the rights to study. Each of the speakers kept bringing this up. Like it's, you can just state it on the second speaker and try to elaborate it as much as you could, and do not try to repeat the same arguments again and again. Try to avoid it. But overall, the two teams doing great, and the three speakers of each team really doing great. So good luck. Thank you very much. That's all for me. Next to myself.
Oh, yeah, I agree with Ferin. It's really hit debate. So yeah, let's move on. I will be straightforward. First, I would like to say the burden of proof that each of the team need to brings. Second, and also like what I consider for me to give a victory points to one of side of the house. So yeah, the burden of proof that two side of the house need to bring is that school is way too general. You can specify what kind of school that you want to implement this motion in the first place. In the current status quo, Indonesia reopened several schools by 30 August with 50% policy. With this kind of thing, affirmative side of the house can relate with the status quo, with this impact, with this real scenario, what likely to happen if we like implement this proposal, or even like the opposition side of the house can also maintain the argument by having this kind of evidence, because in the status quo, school with some of policy still can be open. And then also how many majority parameter is already defined by the first speaker of affirmative side of the house, which is 55% of people, students in each of the school. And I think like it's kind of problematic that can be rebut by the opposition side of the house. And then I guess like you guys not correlate enough to take the case with current situation, education situation in Indonesia. I mean, like the first speaker of affirmative side of the house can say like Israel have already implement the motion, but without the majority. But that's all. I think like I need more tangible evidence to give you more credit toward that. And then also I can see two urgency in here. Affirmative side of the house really put the urgency in the safetyness of the student, while the opposition side of the house is focused on the equality of education in each individual in Indonesia. So yeah, based on that, I will give it two clash for me, and then several of consideration points stands whether or not I will give victory point to one side of the house. So the first clash, which is whether or not the school need to start need to have a majority vaccinate to start the school. And then government say like the characteristic of student, which is social interaction, and they also say like because of less interaction and then cheating potential, it's also become urgent for us to have this kind of thing. And then second is also it's supported by the government, which is government program to vaccinate, boost vaccination number in school. And then also they say like mechanism of opposition, if we didn't implement this proposal, it also will create another outbreak. And then they say like the urgency from for this motion is the accessibility problem, because government can subsidize this for now in the short term, but in the long term we don't know if government have adequate budget or not. And it's never rebutted by strongly from the opposition side of the house. I mean, it's really great stance. While in the side of opposition, they say like we cannot wait until the majority vaccinate, because first the slow progress, they bring a lot of data and it's really makes sense. And then second, also they say like comorbid case that never been rebutted by strongly by the affirmative side of the house. How this kind of person that cannot be vaccinated can get equal education same as other people. And then they say about the rural area case, which is unequal distribution that makes them also hard to get the right of education. And then also like health protocol in current situation is already enough, but also we boost vaccinate number. And then they also try to come up with a solution which is hybrid school implementation that I think is very potential for you to elaborate more, and it's also not strongly rebutted by affirmative side of the house. And then second clash, which is whether or not which one of side of the house can fulfill the right of the society, and what kind of right of the society that you want to fulfill. The affirmative side of the house say it is we are fulfill the right of the society, which is government has responsibility to protect the society, right of the society to get a proper education with the right of safetyness. While in the side of the house, opposition side of the house say this is without any exception, everyone, every single individual need to have need to fulfill their right in education, and yeah, some of their elaboration with behavior theory, and then about Maslow that also being repetitive, being repeated by the second and third speaker. And then yeah, I can see like both of the team is still like in impact. I mean, like you say like okay, we have fulfilled the right of the society, either it's equality of education or safetyness. And then what? And then what the outcome after that? If we implement it, this kind of motion, and then we ensure the right is fulfilled, then what likely to happen in the end of the day? I still not really get the point from both of side of the house, both offside of the house. And then yeah, I think like in the next debate you can improve yourself. That's all from me. Thank you so much. Good luck.
Okay, let's jump to my verbal adjudication. Okay, guys. I will not say much regarding to the motion because Farin and Faisal already gave the adjudication very clear regarding to the motion and regarding to the stances of which of you guys. But here, I'd like to say that I really wanted to appreciate both of you, both side of the house, that you guys are very very consistent. Like all of the speakers, either it's from both from government and also oppositions, you guys are very consistent. Because yeah, we've seen many teams previously that in some cases, in some moments they did accidentally inconsistent by each speakers, but you guys made it very clear that from the first until third, you brought the same and even strengthened the arguments of the previous speakers. And I also love the way the second and the way of the second, all of the second and also third speakers of the teams who are very doing their role very great to strengthen the previous arguments. So the consistency the consistency clears really seem to be clearer and clearer the moment it getting strengthened by the data, by the rebuttals or many things as the support from the third and from the second also third speaker. I guess that's the general adjudication that I can say to you, but because the motion stated this household, so actually both of the both of the houses have to propose any mechanism or many technical or practical solutions, because this motion is about both. This motion is about wanting to issue the new mechanism or issue the new policy in Indonesia that the Indonesia will start school after the majority get vaccinated. So the one thing, the most essential thing that you have to propose under this motion is mechanism. And I see this in government team. I saw that the government very clear to give the mechanism that they have two systems. First, they also first they do a selection for the schools to be allowed to be opened. Like they also mentioned the mechanism in detail. Like they will put the table and chair like 1.5 meters by the student, which is very good, and also with the consideration of health protocol, and then jump to the opposition team regarding to the they will bring, which is hybrid system of the study. Anyway, it's a good solution as well. Like the opposition wants to do the hybrid way to study, like the healthy student could go to school after get vaccinated, and the student with comorbidity cannot. But I guess the opposition doesn't seem to make it clear, doesn't seem to elaborate more regarding to their mechanism, which is regarding to their innovative mechanism about this hybrid solution. What I mean in more elaborating about your mechanism is like you have to decide the measure. You have to give some kind of definition more regarding to the hybrid way to study, like how long you will implementing this, like how can you how can you open the school fully without doing the hybrid? Like what time? Until when? What's the threshold for that? What when you will end this kind of hybrid way to the student, so the student can get their 5 basic needs as you all, yeah, as you guys always propose. So I guess regarding to mechanism, you two bring two different mechanism, but this is only the matter of how the mechanism is being in detail or being make sense to be implemented or not. Okay, I also wanted to bring another thing that is not that is not being debated very well. Like the other team didn't want to discuss that, like Faisal said, regarding to the comorbid student. Like actually the government really have to answer regarding to this problem that is being brought by the opposition. Like how about the student with morbidity? How could they get vaccinated while actually they have another disease on their body from the beginning? As actually it's already have the solution, like Pfizer and also Moderna vaccine are friendly for comorbid persons. Actually the government can actually say that, but sadly it is not being brought in this debate, but it's okay. And also I want to highlight from the government team who is very concerned regarding to the internet speed and also internet device in a rural area, which is also not being answered by the opposition team. While it's being a real problem if the opposition team wants to apply this hybrid system. How about them? How about them in rural area which not have a good internet speed and also good devices to conduct the study online? But so there are many things that is being brought in the debate, which actually can be good if they could they could be put inside the flow of the debate. But sadly, not every point that I mentioned is being debated here. But because all of you all of you have a good stances and also being consistent, so I really enjoyed this debate. Okay, I guess it's all from me. Thank you. I go back to you.
Okay, thank you, fellow adjudicator, for the verbal adjudication, and also congratulations to all debaters. The announcement of the winner will be announced at the closing ceremony of Iron 2021. I hereby close this round. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, committee.
Thank you, Kak.
Thank you so much, educators. Thank you so much, committees.
Yes, thank you. Good
Oke
luck.
semua.
Can we take a photo?
All right.
Kak mau tanya, closing ceremony-nya itu jam berapa ya? Or hari apa? Hari ini or gimana?
Izin menjawab, closing ceremony insya Allah it will be held this evening jam 7 malam. Jika tidak ada perubahan, dan insya Allah link akan kami berikan secepatnya.
Oke, Kak, thank you, Kak.
Okay, we take a photo. 1, 2. Okay, once again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you everyone. Good luck.
Thank you, Kak. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good rest, everyone.